Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. So for today's video, I'm going to tackle a problem that I have been dealing with for several weeks, for too many weeks in fact, but I kept putting this on the back burner to address, and finally, the back burner has come home to roost or something, and we're dealing with it. So the problem that I'm referring to is my dissatisfaction with the dry lubricant that I bought for my Dean & Beans sock machine. If you're not familiar, I have a Dean & Beans circular sock knitting machine, which is essentially a cranking apparatus where I crank a wheel and create a sock on this rudimentary machine. It's a hand-operated crank system. Okay, so there's more that can be said there, but that's basically the most basic explanation of what this thing is. Now, because of the constant cranking motion that is required to operate the machine and to make a sock, it's really important that the machine stays lubricated. And the way that you do that is by utilizing dry lube, which is typically an aerosol spray that is safe to use on plastics and it doesn't leave an oily residue. When I first purchased my Dean & Beans sock machine and received it in the summer of 2022, I tried 3-in-1 lock dry lube just because that's what my local Lowe's had in stock, and so that's what I used for many, many months. Over the summer, this past summer, 2023, I needed to restock my dry lube supply, so I went to Lowe's and they had the Blaster brand dry lube, which I had been wanting to try. I didn't have any experience using it on my machine, so I wanted to give it a go. I purchased 2 cans of that aerosol lubricant and I started using one of them right away on my machine. I quickly found that I hated it. Sorry, it just wasn't for me. If you're a diehard fan of Blaster Dry Lube, amazing. I'm so happy for you. It just wasn't, it's not my preference. I will not be using it again or purchasing it again. So today I finally did what I've been putting off for a long time, and I took the 2 bottles of Blaster Dry Lube that I had purchased back to Lowe's and I returned them. Yes, I even returned the bottle that I had used. I told them I had used it. I wasn't trying to like swindle anyone, but I was so dissatisfied with my purchase and like, I'm basically convinced this is a faulty product. So I returned those bottles, got a full refund. After I returned them, I went to the spray lubricant aisle and I got myself a can of the 3-in-1 lock dry lube, which again is the brand that I had been using since I started with my Dean & Beans sock machine. So I'm basically going back to my tried and true brand, the 3-in-1 lock dry lube. And I also purchased this pack of alcohol sanitizing wipes. This has 75% alcohol, and I'm going to use this to clean the residue that the Blaster Dry Lube left on my machine and my needles. Now, a quick background on why I decided to go this route. When I came to terms with the fact that it needs to happen, I need to take out some certain parts of my machine and thoroughly clean them because the residue that the Blaster Dry Lube has left behind is just not sustainable to keep on my machine. I think it's gross, I think it's ugly, and I think it's cumbersome to the cranking process. So I just need to get it cleaned off my machine. Dean & Beans has a Facebook group where owners of their sock machines can use that place as a resource to share what they've been making, to ask questions, to help each other troubleshoot. And I posted in there and asked if anyone had experience cleaning parts of their machines like the cylinders and the tension apparatus, as well as the needles, with soap and water. I was thinking I could maybe soak these in some lukewarm water with some Dawn dish soap, give them a gentle scrub, and make sure that they were cleaned off. But I wasn't sure if that would damage the machine. This is 3D printed, so it's not the sturdiest material, and I want to make sure that I am doing right by the material and not causing further damage. So I wanted to be sure to ask in that Facebook group. No one commented that they had tried the soap and water approach, but they did say that they use alcohol wipes or sanitizing wipes. So I wasn't sure if I should buy like a Lysol or a Clorox wipe or a store brand version of those. But one person said that they used alcohol wipes because the owner of Dean & Beans, Mary, recommended alcohol wipes. So that's what I ended up deciding to move forward with. I will use these to wipe off the parts of my machine that are affected by the Blaster Dry Lube residue, and I'm hoping that this will make it good as new. So this is a little bit of an experiment. I haven't done this before, taken apart pieces of my machine and cleaned them or wiped them down. So we'll be experiencing this together a little bit, but that's what today's video is going to be about. Let's head to the cranking station and get started. All right, so over at the cranking station, taking off my box cover of my machine, the first thing I keep noticing every time is this disgusting white residue. I am so over it. I think it's so gross. It's so ugly, and the buildup is just it's not working for me. So here's a close-up, and I'll zoom in here. You can see how it's kind of crusty and cakey, and on the needles it's really gunky and gummy, and it's horrendous. So I am more than ready to get this off. See, look at the buildup on this needle. That is on every single needle of the cylinder that I've used Blaster Dry Lube on, and it's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's disgusting. So it is time for a good clean. I'm really trying to show you fully so you can fully understand how gummed up these needles are because of the Blaster Dry Lube. I'm not trying to slander Blaster Dry Lube. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just telling you that this is something that happened when I used it, and I hated it, and it was the worst ever. So I will not be using it again. Again, here's just another shot of how gunky those needles are. It's like they're not even what they're supposed to be. Like, what is this? Some monster from I don't know. Anyway, okay, so the first step, let's focus here. The first step is to grab my Dean & Bean screwdriver, and I'm going to go underneath the cylinder, which is the apparatus that holds all of the needles around the circumference of the tube unit. And I'm going to undo 3 screws that keep the cylinder attached to the machine and make it so when you crank that handle, the cylinder moves around in a circle. So I'm undoing it from that bottom crank, and I'll take that off here, and I'll show you, look, even this is disgusting. Like, the disgustingness abounds. Nothing is safe from the horror of being gross, apparently. So now I'm just going to lift a few needles up, twist a little bit so I can pull the cylinder out, and look, even more disgustingness. The problem is even more dire than I could see from a bird's eye view. I'm just absolutely disgustified looking at this. It's disgusting. It's so gross, and it feels like old gum on my fingers, and it's just not, I don't know, it's just not the sensory experience that I want to have. So I'm showing you the difference between a needle that was used on a cylinder where I used the original lubricant, the 3-in-1 dry lock, so you can see there is some buildup on it. It's not perfect, but compared to the needle that I used the Blaster Dry Lube on, it is a huge difference. The Blaster Dry Lube needle is just disgusting. Just barf me to death over here. Okay, so here's a view from above. You can see the camshells that the needles pass through. They're totally caked with this garbage, disgusting mess. It's everywhere. It's built up so dramatically that just moving the camshells makes this flaky, disgusting nonsense come off. So obviously it's very apparent here that some cleaning needs to take place. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. All right, so getting started with the alcohol wipes, I am going to wipe down the parts of the machine I can reach. I was pleasantly surprised with how effective these were. I quickly realized that there are kind of 3 categories of buildup on my machine, and they go in order of difficulty to remove. So the first category of buildup is just the thin white film, and that is, you can see that on the top. See, look at that. That's just disgusting. I'm just disgusted. But anyway, yes, the thin white film is the easiest to remove. The second category of buildup is when there is so much buildup of that thin white film that it becomes this cakey, chalky substance. And then the third category of buildup is when it's just gunk and just like really gummy and sticky and just super gross. So the easiest to get off is the white film, and the second most difficult to remove is when the white film has built up to form this chalky mess, and then the third most difficult is the gunk. So but the alcohol wipes are a worthy opponent for all 3. It just takes a little bit more elbow grease depending on what category of buildup I'm removing. So anyway, the alcohol wipes are working great for me. I think in a little bit later you'll see me grab a Q-tip and just a bottle of rubbing alcohol to moisten the wipes I'm using, and then use that Q-tip to get into hard to reach places, and that worked really well too. So I'm really glad that I had the resource of the Dean and Beans Facebook group, because if I had moved forward with my first idea, which was to wash my machine with soap and water, I don't really know how I would have approached this part of cleaning the machine, because it's kind of all one piece, and although I could remove it, like you can see there's a lot of screws and pieces that you could separate, but that leaves, I don't know, too much margin for error, and more than I'm comfortable with, because I could lose a screw, I could lose a washer, I could not remember which piece goes where. So keeping it all in one piece is just good for my peace of mind, and I wouldn't have thought of an alcohol wipe if I hadn't asked in the group, and my former self is just going to keep blocking the shot, apparently. Yes, hello, Rachel, please move. You're in the way. So, yes, the alcohol wipes are working great, and let's see how it continues. So if you're wondering why this part maybe seems a little choppy, it's because I cut out a bunch of shots that was just the back of my head. So you may think there's a lot of them already, but I basically cut out most of this shot because I was in the way. Anyway, so you can see how it is improving. I used a lot of wipes to film or to clean this part. There was gunk everywhere. So after I cleaned out the standing pieces of the machine attached to the cranking station as best I could, I moved over here to my desk and I laid down a towel and I took out each needle one by one. And then after I took out each of the needles, I removed the spring that goes around the circumference of the cylinder to keep the needles in place. So basically I have a bunch of needles to clean one by one, the spring to clean, the cylinder to clean, and then that bottom, I don't know, cog, wheel, notched wheel, crank, whatever. I can't think of the word for it. You can tell me in the comments if it's that important to know. When I film, I forget like half my vocabulary. Sorry, I don't know. It's the pressure of performance. Anyway, so I'm cleaning these needles one by one, and I will tell you while you enjoy this time lapse that showing you how disgusting my machine has become, whether it's only because of the blaster dry lube or also because of the fact that I have never cleaned this so thoroughly in the year that I've owned it, it's kind of embarrassing to show you how gross it is. So I definitely have decided that I need to adopt a cleaning routine for my machine. Like I've said so many times, I'm never going to use blaster dry lube again. I am so dissatisfied with my experience and so disgustified that I won't be doing it. But even if I only use the dry lock lube moving forward, I still should probably be better about cleaning my machine. So I'm going to be getting into a better cleaning routine because there's really no excuse. Even if I stayed using Blaster Dry Lube exclusively, I should be taking better care of my machine. Hello, it's an investment. It's really important to me. It's something that brings me a lot of joy, and I want to make sure that I take care of it so I can keep using it for years to come. See, look, there's even buildup in all these little nooks and crannies. It's just nowhere is safe. Nowhere is safe from being disgusting. So cleaning these really thoroughly and getting the job done as best I can to make sure that I get as many nooks and crannies that are accessible with this alcohol wipe. The rest of this clip I have sped up to 20 times normal speed, so you can get an idea of, the time required to go around and clean. This is just one cylinder. This was my 64 needle cylinder, so I'm cleaning 64 needles, one cylinder, one spring, and one cranking wheel that goes on the bottom of the machine. And all in all, it took about 35 minutes for the cleaning that I did at my desk. So that doesn't include the cleaning that took place on the machine itself at the cranking station. So I would say all in, this was probably an hour or a little less of work to get one cylinder thoroughly cleaned and the machine casing thoroughly cleaned. So it wasn't too much of a time investment. It wasn't the end of the world by any means, and like I just mentioned, it probably should have been done regardless of my dissatisfaction with Blaster Dry Lube. So I am going to be noting to take an hour every so often to clean my machine to keep it in good working order. So now you can see the updated view of the machine, and I'll show you the before and after. Okay, so here's what it looked like before. I think we can all agree this is so much worse than it is now. It is totally disgusting. And here is the after. Such an improvement. There are still spots that are not perfect, but I am happy with this result. I think that my machine is going to run so much smoother, and I'm excited to sit back down at the cranking station very soon to get cranking. So that's all I have for the video today. I hope that you liked it. If you did like it, I would so appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and if you want to be notified of my next upload, hit that notification bell. Last but not least, head over to Instagram and follow me at Rachel is Knitting if you don't already. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.